Hello, thank you for joining us for School Breakfast Resources to Increase Participation. My name is Ellen Dillon. I am with Action for Healthy Kids. I'm the Regional Field Manager for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states and have been working with school breakfast grants and schools across the country for about 5 years now. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar today. Just to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that everybody's able to see and hear properly, we just want to make sure all the logistics are taken care of so that you are able to access all the information. You can choose to listen to the webinar via your telephone or through speakers. You're just going to pick which one works best for you. If you want to use the telephone, you can call in using the telephone number provided, or you can use your mic and speakers on your computer. Everyone is muted by default, so you won't be able to hear anything that's going on in your school or in your office building. So just know that whichever way is easiest for you is the best way for you. You can and should please submit a question. We will have opportunities during the webinar where we'll be able to ask your questions. Also, we'll be responding as best we can in real time to you. But if your question is one that is either that could apply to everyone or is something that everyone would benefit from hearing or is a similar theme being asked, we'll make sure to ask it of our presenter. Most importantly, this call is being recorded. You will get the links to the recording as well as all the reference handouts and links that are in the webinar. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck, so you don't have to worry about taking too many notes. You will receive the information afterwards as well as contact information if you need more information from our presenter. This is our agenda for today's webinar. We'll talk for a few minutes about why we want to increase breakfast participation. What's the importance regarding it, and how does it benefit our students as well as our schools? We will have a presentation from Annalise Cohen from the Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom, who will be sharing her toolkit for the breakfast in the classroom. We'll also hear from Karen Banks from Share Our Strengths No Kid Hungry program, who will be sharing their breakfast calculator and how to make universal breakfast or breakfast for no charge, or utilizing community eligibility a reality in your school and how it can become a feasible opportunity. I will be sharing Action for Healthy Kids resources as well as other strategies and resources from partners that are focusing on school breakfast and increasing breakfast participation. Throughout, we will have opportunities for Q&A. So please make sure you submit your questions and we will be sure to answer those. We will begin now. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the importance of school breakfast. And we tend to call this the school breakfast trifecta. The importance of breakfast really has to do with these three areas. By increasing breakfast participation, we know that we can help to increase the nutrition and health component for our students. It is a way of reducing obesity, and we know that that children that eat a school breakfast eat less calories than those that might pick up breakfast on the run or eat a not as healthy breakfast at home if someone's not there to help provide them with their breakfast, or even if they eat just too many calories sometimes. By having that opportunity, they're able to increase their academic achievement. Through studies, we are able to see that those students who eat a school breakfast do better academically than those that do not or might eat other food for breakfast. So having those two pieces, not only the nutrition component as well as to increase academic achievement, are key factors of why we want to increase breakfast participation. But the bottom line is schools benefit by increased breakfast participation by increasing their funding. They're able to increase their reimbursements through USDA's National School Breakfast Program and thereby be able to offer more opportunities for healthy foods because they have more money in their coffers, so to speak, where they're able to do more things. So in today's webinar, we'll talk about different ways you can increase the breakfast participation. You're going to hear us talking about different service models. The biggest key for increasing breakfast participation truly is changing the way breakfast is served to students. Traditionally, it's often in the cafeteria before school, and we see through all across the country that students rarely are taking advantage of that opportunity to go into the cafeteria for multiple reasons. Sometimes their buses are late. Sometimes it's because of the stigma that's associated with going to the cafeteria to have breakfast. Breakfast is not just for those students that are free or reduced. All students can participate. But when they have to go to the cafeteria, it tends to become more of a stigma issue as well. Some cafeterias are just not equipped to get students in and out in a quick manner either. So then it becomes a situation where students aren't able to get through class in time. So there are all kinds of issues that keep kids from having breakfast in the cafeteria before school. So then if we move that breakfast to other areas, right after the school bell, so it doesn't really impact those students who need to get to school on time. They've come to school, it's either delivered to their classroom, which is a traditional breakfast in the classroom model. It could be a grab and go to the classroom, where carts are set up in the hall, or they grab it from the cafeteria and take it to their classroom. Or maybe they're grabbing and going somewhere else in the school, maybe to their homeroom or a second period class. So you can see here that some of the grade levels tend to be more successful at some of these different levels too. We can also find something called reimbursable vending, where students are able to pick up their breakfast at different periods in the morning and through a reimbursable vending machine. This tends to be most popular and efficient during those upper grade levels where students have a little bit more freedom in their time, as well as being able to grab their breakfast. Our first presenter, Annalise Cohen, she is a senior program manager with the NEA-HIN, or NEA, National Education Association Health Information Network. She's going to be sharing about the Breakfast Toolkit and other resources for educators from the Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom. Now, Annalise, just as you know, is sitting in an airport in Indiana, so we'll do the best to make sure she's able to communicate freely, and if anything happens where she can't, I will be able to take over for her. Annalise?
Thanks, Ellen, and thanks to Action for Healthy Kids for inviting me to be on this webinar today. I'm very excited to talk with you about breakfast in the classroom and some of our breakfast tools that we have available for educators in the school building. So I'll just go to the next slide. So for those of you that are not familiar with the NEA Health Information Network, or NEA-HIN, we're the health and safety affiliate of the National Education Association. And the National Education Association is the nation's largest professional employee organization committed to advancing the cause of public education. And NEA's 3 million members work at every level of the school building, from preschool to university graduate programs, and specifically are the teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers that work in schools. So if you're interested in learning more about NEA-HIN and what we do, you can check out our website, which I've provided the link for on the slide. Next. So in terms of the programs and the issues that NEA-HIN tackles, we cover an array of health and safety issues facing students and educators. And one of those issues happens to be hunger. And we have been hearing for the last 5-6 years or so that more educators across the country were seeing students not being able to learn because they hadn't eaten breakfast and because they were coming to school hungry. And this information was very concerning to us, and it was really our NEA members who said we need to do something about this. And I'm very glad that Chair String's on the call to sort of follow up with their breakfast calculator, which is a great resource. And I've quoted some of their statistics from their recent hunger report in 2015 and 2013 that state that 3 out of 4 public school teachers say they regularly see students coming to school hungry, and that it happens more than, or at least once a week, and that educators are spending money out of their own pockets on food for their students. And lastly, that they believe that breakfast is extremely important to their students for academic achievement. So really, this issue of hunger and NEA members seeing this as an issue in their schools and wanting to rally around this was how we found ourselves involved with programs like Breakfast in the Classroom. Next. And what I'll talk a little bit about is our work with Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom, which is a national initiative for education and health and anti-hunger organizations that have come together over their shared passion for feeding students. And so aside from my organization, we're working with the Food Research and Action Center, which is the National Anti-Hunger Association, the National Association of Elementary School Principals Foundation, and the School Nutrition Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of the School Nutrition Association. And our work is funded through a grant by the Walmart Foundation, and we've been funded with them since 2010. So we've been working around the issue of hunger and breakfast in the classroom for the last 5 years. And our mission is to increase breakfast consumption among school children and spark the academic and nutritional gains associated with the morning meal. So far, in these last 5 years, we've been able to work in 15 high-need school districts across the country and have helped provide breakfast to 30,000 additional students. We're extremely proud of this work, but we did not do this alone. We've been working with state and local partners on the ground to really make this program work and happen. So this has been a very stakeholder-driven model in terms of how we fund and how we implement breakfast in the classroom. And this year, I'm pleased to tell you that we are working in 7 states. So if you're from one of these 7 states, you can apply for breakfast in the classroom funding. And those states include Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, which is why I'm sitting in an airport in Indiana today. I just came from our Indiana Breakfast Summit, where we announced the grant to school districts in the state. And the great thing about our grant is that they range in size, and we have rolling deadlines. So there's no minimum or maximum amount for our grants. We have grant requirements that school districts or individual schools must meet, but the items that our grant covers and provides are somewhat endless. The only thing our grant does not cover is the cost of food and full-time staffing, but everything else our grant covers. So if you're in one of these states and you're interested in our Breakfast in the Classroom grant and want additional information, you can email me, and I have my email on the last slide, but it's acohon@nea.org, or you can check out the Breakfast in the Classroom website, which is www.breakfastintheclassroom.org for more information. And you can go on our website, NEAHIN's website, to see some videos about where we've been and where we've been able to work. Next. So our role in the Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom initiative is really to empower educators to tackle hunger. And for those of you that work in school districts, you may feel that when you say the word breakfast in the classroom, the general reaction from educators or from administrators is maybe one of not necessarily embracing right away. And what we do in order to ensure that educators are engaged from the beginning and are made to feel a part of the Breakfast in the Classroom process is we involve their unions and their associations. So we work specifically through NEA's local and state affiliates to engage educators and school employees that they represent, and to bring them to the table, so to speak, and make them feel engaged partners. We also provide technical assistance. So if NEA members or the school districts in which we work are having any issues or are coming into any trouble spots with, say, pests or fear of loss of instructional time, we provide them with resources and technical assistance to help them overcome those common barriers that we hear about. We also assist and conduct in-person trainings for educators and school staff. This is a really crucial and critical part of our Breakfast in the Classroom grants. We see that when training is provided to educators before the program is rolled out, the chance for success and the chance for longevity of the program is improved, and this also provides educators with a plan so that from the first day that the program is rolled out, they know what they have to do, and there's already buy-in for it. So the in-person trainings I can talk a little bit about, but they cover a lot of different topics, everything from how to clean in the classroom when there's food to what activities, curriculum activities you can teach or incorporate into breakfast time. So those are a couple of the different topics that we train schools and school districts on. And then we also collect best practices and success stories. Our breakfastintheclassroom.org website is a great resource if you want to see what some of our local partners and school districts that we funded, their successes and what we've been able to glean from some of the tips and tricks that they've been able to utilize along the way. And then last but not least, we disseminate our breakfast toolkit, which I'm extremely excited to tell you about next. And our breakfast toolkit is a free resource through the Breakfast in the Classroom program, but can also be downloaded for free for anyone off of our website. Inside the toolkit, there's a lot of different topics, and it's designed for educators and school staff to really help them understand the benefits and logistics of moving breakfast from the cafeteria and into the classroom. And I should mention that this toolkit is really geared for elementary and middle school, specifically grades K through 8. But if you're working in a high school or you want more information about specifically for high schools, you can email me and I can give you some more tailored resources. So inside of our toolkit, we have information around why breakfast is important, everything from what Ellen mentioned with the education and health benefits of breakfast to what is breakfast in the classroom and the different models that it includes, like the kiosks or the grab and go or the direct delivery to the classroom. And then, most importantly, we discuss what does universal breakfast in the classroom mean for me, and we break it down for educators, for custodial staff, for food service professionals, so that they know what their role is and what breakfast in the classroom will mean for them. And it doesn't have to mean extra work. We stress that breakfast in the classroom really is supposed to alleviate stress and pressure from educators not feeling like they can teach their students because they're too focused on not having anything in their stomachs, and really help enable them to do their job better. We also provide some information about school food service, some frequently asked questions that we hear, and advocacy tools, which include how to engage parents and community members and caregivers around breakfast in the classroom. So we have some supplemental handouts that you can download as well on our website that include hand washing, a recipe for success card, which lists some of the best practices for implementing breakfast in the classroom, and also one of my favorites, a list of favorite books to read over breakfast that you can download. We have a list of 25 books to read over breakfast, and then a longer list of 100 books. So that's great, whether you're at home with your own children or at school with your students. Next. And I should mention this is the third edition of our toolkit, and we have lots of new information that I am looking forward to sharing with you. So first, we have some standard-based student activities for breakfast time with the push towards national standards. We've heard from educators they want to know what are some possible lessons they can teach during classroom time. So we've highlighted a few for them, and we've listed them from kindergarten to 8th grade with sample activities, descriptions, and what are some books that can go along with these activities from our list of books to read over breakfast. As I said before, we also have new strategies involving parents, caregivers, and families. We included in this toolkit information about how to manage students with food allergies, because we've heard from educators how they are seeing more students with food allergies in their classroom and want to make sure they understand what their role is. And then I should also mention we include information about the community eligibility provision, CEP, and then, as I mentioned, our list of books to read over breakfast. So this toolkit is really feedback that we've received from educators about what they would like to see and what knowledge they would like to have, and what knowledge they felt would have been helpful to have with a breakfast in the classroom program being rolled out. So if you're interested, again, in downloading a copy of the toolkit, you can go to our website and download it today. Next. And just to give you a sample activity, so this is for a 3rd grade classroom. And these are some of the types of activities that we have put together for educators to help them figure out how to use that first 10 to 15 minutes of the day and infuse it with learning. So on Monday, we have a super class activity, and then throughout the week we have different activities that don't require a lot of supplies or resources and are things that students already are probably doing in the classroom, but can infuse breakfast and make it something fun for them and something where instructional time isn't lost. So that's just a quick example. Next. And we also have some other additional resources for you that are not specifically breakfast in the classroom focused, but are free resources, and I think these are great supplements for anyone in the school building. We have our Healthy Steps, Healthy Lives curriculum, which is for grades K through 3 and 3 to 6, and that basically is curriculum that we've come up with to help educators infuse healthy activity, healthy eating, and healthy living. As I mentioned before, our food allergy booklets. And lastly, for more information specific to the Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom, there is the link there. So these are just some of the resources that we have available for educators. And if you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to answer them. So next.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Ellen, what was that?
I was thinking you were done. And my computer's a little paused right now. I'm sorry. Bear with me. It took us to... Okay, so we had, I do apologize, we had a little technical glitch. I clicked on and it took me to the Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom website by accident automatically. So we had some questions that were coming through, and I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak to an Annalise before she has to hop off, because as we mentioned, she is in an airport. And any questions that you have for her, if you can get them in at this point so that she is able to move about more freely in her attempts to fly back home. So we did have a question related to academic achievement and school breakfast. And the question was, what are, or any specific studies that demonstrate the boost in academic achievement from school breakfast? Are you aware if they focus on testing days or overall improvement? Annalise, do you have any thoughts on that? I have a few, but I'll go ahead, and since the question came during your presentation.
Sure. Yeah, and if I miss any, Ellen, feel free to chime in. You know, we use specifically, FRAC has some great data that they've collected and compiled into a really neat little summary called Breakfast for Learning, and it basically is scientific research on the link between children's nutrition and academic performance. So that is one resource that I would definitely tell you to look at. Then there have been numerous studies published that show that academic achievement among students who eat school breakfast tends to improve, especially in vocabulary, math, and standardized tests. And I think actually Share Our Strengths in Deloitte, and I'm sure Karen from Share Our Strengths can speak to this better than I can, but released a report saying, in fact, that eating breakfast, children that eat breakfast attend, I think, 1.5 more days of school. They score an average of 17.5% higher on standardized math tests and are 20% more likely to graduate. So there's actually very substantial research that is out there about the benefits of breakfast, and those are just a few that are coming to mind.
Yep. Those are pretty much the similar ones that I was thinking of as well. And I think the biggest key is that some of those pieces that you mentioned regarding the teachers and their observations, I think some of the things that we hear from teachers are related to the fact that once they go to a breakfast in the classroom or they know those students are eating breakfast, they are seeing visible changes in their classroom in terms of behavior, in terms of attention, time on task is increased. So seeing all those activities related to instructional time and promoting breakfast during instructional time is so important to help people see that they're not losing instructional time too. So we have another question. What is NEA's opinion regarding involving teachers and making sure students receive a reimbursable meal in the classroom?
So I heard the first part of that question. Would you mind just repeating it again, Ellen? I'm sorry.
Not a problem. What is NEA's opinion regarding involving teachers in making sure students take or receive a reimbursable meal in the classroom?
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. Well, NEA, since 2010, has been extremely supportive of breakfast in the classroom and really see it as an integral part of teaching the whole child, and see it as something that's not only the right thing to do for students, but just the right thing to do in general. Obviously, when you're asking educators to do claiming and accountability, there needs to be some type of training that goes along with that. A lot of the times educators aren't familiar with the components that make up a reimbursable meal or understand the reasons why it's important for them to be counting and claiming that meal for auditing purposes. So part of our training really encompasses that accountability part of breakfast in the classroom, so that if educators are the ones claiming and counting those meals, they know what is a reimbursable meal, why it's important to be collecting it, and that it's an accurate count. So NEA is very supportive. NEA has been very supportive of us doing training around that for educators.
Yeah, it's absolutely key to train, and it usually comes through the food service offices as they, roll this out into schools, that they're working to train those teachers so that they're able to implement it properly too. So thanks for sharing that. Last chance to get your questions in for Annalise. And if there are any questions that come in afterwards, Annalise, we will be sending those to you, and those so that people can connect. We do have another question. What are some strategies for getting the word about school breakfast advantages and advocacy to university teacher educators and to teachers in training? Good question.
Yeah, great question. Well, I think teachers in training, I think from the beginning they should be they should be educated on the connection between education and health, and specifically breakfast. And it's funny, I've done trainings before that involve student teachers, and they feel very strongly that there is no there's no room for hunger in their classroom, meaning they would rather their students be have the food and fuel that they need to learn and be successful. And speaking from someone that was recently talking to a university student, I mean, you at any age you need food in order to learn and be successful. So, I think getting the word out to university professors and student teachers is vitally important. And NEA represents student teachers and some university professors, so we've been trying to educate them more about this topic and make sure that it's included as part of their education.
Great. Thank you, Annalise. Any additional questions? We did have a question that applies to breakfast in the classroom that we'll answer towards the end. That way Annalise can get moving because it's more general to breakfast in the classroom. So we'll go ahead and save that one. And any other questions that come through later, Annalise will follow up with you afterwards, okay?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for sharing today. We appreciate it. Okay, now we are going to be turning over to Karen Banks, who is Program Manager with No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices. No Kid Hungry is a division of Share of Strength. And Karen, are you available?
I am.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you. I wanted to start by saying thank you, Ellen, for inviting me to speak this afternoon. And it was really great. It's really great to follow Annalise's presentation about the toolkit, because now we're going to jump into a little bit of the nitty-gritty in terms of some of the finances behind school breakfast and offering alternative breakfast models. To start, I wanted to give you all a little bit of background information about Share Our Strength and the No Kid Hungry campaign and how we interact in the breakfast space. Share Our Strength was founded about 30 years ago by a brother and sister duo that believe that everyone has a strength to share in the fight against hunger, hence our name. And so we really focus on ending childhood hunger on a domestic level, so in the United States, by increasing access to federal nutrition programs, primarily school breakfast, the summer meals program, and the after-school meals program. And we do this through 3 tactics. One is through education, so or increasing access by raising awareness and working with partners on the ground in states to implement strategies that connect kids to school breakfast, primarily offering, working with schools to implement alternative breakfast models like breakfast in the classroom. We also do some work around advocacy at a federal and state level to look at how we can use legislation as a lever to increase access. And finally, we also run a program called Cooking Matters that helps families to gain food skills, cooking and nutrition education skills that they can use in the home to prepare healthy meals on a budget for their families. So our work really helps to connect kids with meals 360 days a year, making sure that they have a healthy meal in school during the school year and when school is out during the summer as well. So one of the resources that we have available is the No Kid Hungry School Calculator. It's a financial modeling tool. It is targeting school decision makers, both principals and food services directors. It can be used by anyone. It's an open, free, accessible tool. We created this tool in conjunction with Deloitte Consulting. They helped us to build it. And the impetus for creating this resource was that we wanted a way to be able to capture that financial picture of what it costs to run these programs. Annalise mentioned earlier a report by Deloitte. It was a social impact study on the impact of school breakfast and how it affects students, their education, attendance at school, and really showing the case for the importance of school breakfast, that it changes lives, that kids that eat school breakfast attend more days of school, they earn higher scores on standardized tests, and they're more likely to graduate. It's great to have that information. It's wonderful to know that it has an impact, but when you get down to changing models and making sure that breakfast is more accessible to students, you also get into the issues of how much does it cost to implement a different model of serving breakfast in the classroom as opposed to serving it in the cafeteria. So we again worked with Deloitte to come up with the No Kid Hungry School Calculator. Like I said, it's intended to target primarily school decision makers and to be used by schools to look at how to increase access and participation in the school nutrition programs. We built it to target schools specifically as opposed to, say, a nonprofit organization or a food bank or a church offering summer meals, because we know that schools have the equipment to be able to serve meals. They also have the knowledge of how to prepare and serve meals to a wide array or a large body of students. And also, we know that schools are trusted sites by parents. So parents look to schools for information about communities and events. They send their children to schools for 180 days a year, so their children spend a lot of time in school, so they're a trusted location. So we wanted to create a resource that would be easy to use for schools and school decision makers, and also would help you to grapple with some of these financial decisions around the school breakfast program. The calculator looks at not only school breakfast, it also looks at how you can serve summer meals as well as integrate the after-school meals program into your school. So it's really a dynamic tool. It's an online tool, and so we're going to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty behind how it works. Next slide. So this is an overview of the No Kid Hungry School Calculator and what it looks at and what it doesn't look at. Like I said, it focuses on the school breakfast program, the summer meals program, and the after-school meals program, particularly how you can offer increased access to these programs, increase participation, and also it looks at the cost. It's a financial modeling tool, so it definitely provides you with information on the cost of the program. It's intended to provide a very comprehensive picture of what it would cost your school to run these programs. So the results from the calculator, the meat and heart of it, are that it shows you a comparison of what your net revenue could be for your school if you were to increase participation in these programs. It gives you an understanding or an estimate of what your costs would be for these programs, as well as what you could receive in federal reimbursement, as well as how many more students you would reach by increasing access to any number of these programs. The calculator is built so that you can look at all three programs. You can look at how you can integrate summer meals and after-school meals into your school, or you can just look at one program. You can see how changing your model for school breakfast would impact student participation in the program and how many more meals you would serve. It's pretty simple in that it asks for some basic information about your programs in terms of it wants to know about participation, so how many students do you feed, as well as what's your cost per meal, or what are some of your the expenses that you have around your program. Most of the information should be accessible for you to gather. We also do provide resources and other tools built into the calculator to help you estimate some costs if it is not readily available to you. And I'll go through that in the presentation. Next slide. So the calculator focuses on helping schools to understand how to offer an alternative breakfast model. We look at this tool as part a financial modeling tool and part an advocacy tool. And so trying to help schools gauge which alternative service model would be right for their school and how best to serve those meals to students that would make the most sense financially for your program. So it's built out to look at either breakfast in the classroom or grab and go. It's built so that if you are running a breakfast in the classroom program or a grab and go program, you can look at what the financial impact would be by expanding your program. It's also intended to be used by schools that are just starting to dabble in these programs. So after you dig into the NEA School Breakfast Toolkit and understand how the program works, you can come and use a calculator to figure out financially what your school can gain by offering breakfast in the classroom or grab and go. It also provides information and a comparison of the different models of ways you can serve breakfast at your school. So if you were to offer breakfast universally free to all students at your school, what would be the net revenue that you could anticipate earning for your school? And it provides you a comparison versus if you were to charge your students for breakfast, how much would you earn if you were to charge them? And finally, we provide a comparison with the community eligibility provision. We think this is an important opportunity for schools based on studies of the pilot tests and states previously. We know that the community eligibility has a great impact on increasing participation in breakfast. Schools that participated in the program for 2 years saw up to a 25% increase in their breakfast participation. So this is a really important option for schools to be able to help reach more kids. And so we want to be able to show what the financial impact of this option is as well. Next slide. In addition to the school breakfast program, the calculator also looks at how you can integrate the after-school meals program and the summer meals program into your nutrition programs at your school. We look at the after-school meals program primarily through the child and adult food care program, so offering the option to serve meals to students at the end of the day. Also providing a comparison between the summer meals program and the summer food service program and the seamless summer option, so that you can compare and contrast which would be the best option for your school. Again, these are, the calculator is pretty dynamic, so you can choose to look at how, if you offer these programs, it would affect your revenue, or you can skip over them entirely and just look at breakfast. Next slide. So we're going to start a little bit backwards with the calculator and talk about what the results look like, and then go back to what you would need to run the calculator. The results are the heart, the meat of the program. It's what you would use to evaluate the impact of an alternative breakfast program and the finances. When you get to the results page, what the calculator gives you is a table, a chart that shows you how many students you will feed, the percentage that you would reach if you were to offer breakfast in the classroom, what the cost would be per meal to serve those students. It would also give you information on the amount you would receive in federal reimbursement and your total net revenue. All of the information that's generated in the table is based on what information you put into the calculator. These values can change and you can tinker with them on the results page. So if you find that your cost is a little too high, it allows you the flexibility to lower that and see how it would affect your net revenue. The table shows you a comparison between what you currently receive in revenue for a program, and then it gives you a comparison of what you could receive if you were to serve breakfast in the classroom or breakfast after the bell, or grab and go. Next slide. This slide shows you what a table would look like, offering you the comparison between what your current program is, what you could anticipate to receive if you were to serve breakfast non-universal and charge your students, if you were to serve breakfast universally free, or if you were to offer it through the community eligibility provision. As you will notice down at the very bottom, there's a large orange bubble that shows you that this is a demonstration school, but that this school earned $28,000 in revenue for their school breakfast program, compared to what they are currently receiving, which is $6,000 for the current program. By offering breakfast in the classroom through the community eligibility provision, they're serving 85% of students, or they have the potential to serve 85% of their students, versus what they're currently serving, which is 33%. And again, all of this is based on information that you currently have and kind of estimating or anticipating what those costs will be. A couple of caveats to the calculator. It does not take into consideration state reimbursement. So if you live in a state that offers an additional reimbursement for breakfast, it does not factor that in. So that would add to the revenue that you would generate for your program. We consciously decided not to include it just because state reimbursements fluctuate on a pretty consistent basis, and so keeping up with it and keeping the calculator up to date would have become a little bit more challenging. So we strictly focus on what you would earn for federal reimbursement. It also doesn't take into consideration any commodity foods that your school may receive. So there are some limitations in the calculation and what it returns to you in terms of your estimated revenue, but it's intended to be a guide and something that can help you to spark conversation if you're looking to offer breakfast in the classroom and need help kind of pushing it or pushing that decision maker to offer this program. Next slide. So like I said, the calculator is, the results page is flexible. Can you go back a couple slides? It has some options for you to play around with the results. And two of those options are that you can change the participation rate and you can change your cost per meal. So when you get to the results page and you look at it and you say, well, you know, I'm serving breakfast at, my cost is $1.76 per meal. What would happen if I dropped the cost to $1.75? How would that change the revenue? You can enter new values in terms of your cost per meal, and then the table will automatically update to show you how your revenue would change. You can also change your participation rate. We have some set values in the calculator that anticipate that if you were to offer breakfast in the classroom, your participation rate would go up to 85%. You can change that value and adjust the participation rate. If you think that you are not going to reach 85% participation in breakfast your first year, but you might reach 70%, you can enter a new value on these screens, and it will adjust your estimated cost per meal, your estimated cost for your program, and then your net revenue as well. Next slide. In addition to offering the table comparing your revenue and what you will generate for your program, we also offer additional resources. Under each table within the results page, there are links to additional resources that can help you to make the decision of offering breakfast in the classroom, can help you work through some of the issues you may have in terms of if you want to offer community eligibility or want to participate in the community eligibility provision. It provides you with additional information on how you can opt into that program. Also information on if you want to serve breakfast universally free to all students, what are options for you to be able to do that. So it's meant to be both kind of to help you with the finances and the numbers, and also to help you with other resources to make those decisions. Next slide. Finally, because the calculator does an assessment of all three programs, school breakfast, after school meals, and summer meals, if you're looking to get a more comprehensive look of how these programs play against each other within your overall nutrition program, the calculator offers a combined analysis. So you can select if you're going to serve breakfast universally free to all students, if you want to offer after-school meals and you want to serve meals during the summer. It'll show you how, kind of overall how much, what your child nutrition program can generate in terms of revenue and what the cost would be if you were to offer all three programs in your school. In order to get this option, you have to complete each of the sections of the calculator to have this option to combine the analysis. But it was a way for us to look at overall within a school, how do we combine these programs, and what is the financial impact of all these programs on a school, not just looking at them individually as well. Next slide. And finally, another unique feature is that the calculator provides an aggregate analysis. So you can use the calculator to evaluate the financial impact of school breakfast or the finances behind it for one school. You can also use it to look at the impact of breakfast in the classroom across an entire district. And you can do that in two ways. One is that you can enter information for each individual school. You can also enter information for the entire district summed up to the district level. If you enter information for each individual school within a district, you can go to this page and it'll offer you the option to combine the results for different schools and see how, when you combine them all, what it looks like across your district. It's a useful option if you are playing with the community eligibility provision and considering it for your school district. You can select various schools and combine their results to see overall across your district what would be the revenue that you would receive. Next slide. So the And this is an email that gets sent to each user. The calculator asks you when you go through and enter information to enter an email address, and the reason we do that is so that you can receive information on the inputs, the costs and participation numbers that you put into the tool. So every time you use the calculator and you complete it, you get a unique email sent to you that has a link to your results page, and it also has all of the information that you entered into the tool. The calculator has one limitation to it in that once you start it, you got to go all the way through it. So you want to come with all the information prepared that you would need to enter it into the tool so that you can run through it in its entirety in one sitting, and then it shoots you back an email that tells you what information you entered along with a link. So that link stays live and remains open indefinitely, and you can always go back to your results page and play with some of the costs and the participation numbers to see how it impacts your results. And then this helps you to know what information you put into the calculator to start with that helps you to get to what your cost per meal would be for your program or what your overall net revenue would be. Next slide. So this is the web address for the calculator. It's nokidhungry.org/schoolcalculator. It's a web-based tool. It's not an Excel spreadsheet. It's not anything that you download. You go in and you type information into your web browser, and then it generates a results page for you. It's open and accessible to anyone that wants to use it. You can use it at any time of day, at 5 in the morning or at 7 p.m. Hopefully you're not working at those times, but it is live. We also offer a series of resources on the landing page to help you walk through the tool. There's a data point sheet that lives on the landing page on this home page that you can download, and it'll help you to understand what information you need to collect and gather in order to use the tool. We also have a technical manual on the tool that tells you about the calculations and assumptions that are made behind it. It's a very dense document. I don't suggest reading it if you're trying to stay awake. We also have a short video and an example results page on the website. So if you want to take a look at what the results page looks like in its entirety, you can go there and see an example, and it'll help you to determine if you want to go through the tool and use it as well. Next slide. So these are all the resources that we have available. We also have a training guide and some promotional materials. These are not live on the website. We can send them out to anyone that's interested. The training guide is a step-by-step resource that takes you through the tool. It has a test data set that you can use to run through it before you dive into it on your own. I'm happy to share that with anyone that's interested, or to share with this group as well, so that you have a resource that can help you to get started and give you a jump on using the calculator. Next slide. And that's it. So please feel free to go and play with the tool. We're here to help, always available to answer any questions that you come across when you use the calculator. There's an email address on the website that you can email, and it'll take you to me, and I can answer any questions you have as you run through it. Thank you.
Karen, we just had a quick question. You answered one of the questions while you were talking about whether it could be school level or district level, so we don't need to ask that again. But there was a question regarding revenue. So the question says, I'm confused with revenue. What comes out of that? It looks like profit on the chart.
So the revenue is, it shows you, it's your net revenue. So it's based on what the costs of your program are and what you would generate from federal reimbursement. And the difference between that gives you your net revenue. It also takes into consideration if you're charging your students for breakfast, so if you're generating revenue based on income from students paying for their breakfast, it takes that into consideration for your net revenue as well.
So I highly recommend, if you're thinking about going to an alternative model and your free and reduced is such that universal free or community eligibility is an option, run these numbers and share them with your decision makers. Your decision makers could be your business manager at your district. It could be your food service director. It could be someone else. Maybe you're already thinking universal, but you really need to have that change of model to really increase the participation. Many of our districts or schools that have 80, 90% free and reduced rates are not serving them. They're almost free now, so they're not serving all of those students breakfast. It's really the changing of the model that helps to increase the participation, thereby increasing the revenue and the reimbursement. So utilizing this tool is key, I think, to helping show those decision makers how it will work and how the finances will work from it. So we do a really quick question, and we'll see if we can get this in so we can move on. What is the lowest % of identified students that you've seen with schools or districts that decide to participate in CEP versus universal breakfast?
Oh, so CEP, you have to have an identified student percentage of 40% to participate. So if you have lower than that, you are unable to participate in CEP. So that's the lowest you can have. In terms of universally free, we see typically schools that have upwards of, I would say, 60% free or reduced price students, closer to 80% that are offering it universally free that can make it work, just because of the costs that are associated with it. We're working on some alternative options for schools doing grab and go to help increase participation for schools that have lower free and reduced price rates, around the 60%, to see how we can help them bump up participation in school breakfast and make the finances work for those programs.
Great. And just do a quick time check, folks. I know that our webinar is scheduled to end at the top of the hour. We will continue through the webinar if you're able to stay. Great. If not, we will be recording it, and I encourage you, if you do have to jump off, to listen, especially for that last bit. So another question, if you're supporting a school through grant funds, can you use a calculator, or do you have to be an actual school?
No, you can use the calculator. All you need to know is the participation rates for your school and what the program costs. We don't have an option to enter in what you receive from the grant funding, but you can still run through it and know that there are some caveats in terms of the results that you get, but it's all generated, the results are generated based on what you put into the tool in terms of the number of students that are at your school, the number that participate in your program, and what you incur as the costs and expenses for your program.
All right. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about who Action for Healthy Kids is, if you're not already aware of us. We are an organization that is focusing on reducing childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity. We work with schools so they are becoming healthier places so that kids can live healthier lives. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the work that we do. I'm just going to move through some of these a little bit more quickly. As Annalise was sharing regarding, they also have breakfast grants through their Partners for Breakfast in the Classroom, focus in certain states. We have grants that are available to support those alternative breakfast models, as well as universal and alternative breakfast models, by using that calculator and working with some of your key decision makers. In all states, we have school-level grants that are up to well, they're $1,750 per school to increase breakfast participation. Schools just have to have a free and reduced rate of 40% or more to participate. And then we have grants for districts, so that ideally if a district is wanting to move to an alternative model in multiple schools, not only will they receive funding per school, but they could also will receive additional technical assistance to help make that happen. And then in certain states, we have about 20 states, we have what we call our universal and alternative. So it's having that combination of both. Maybe you're already doing universal, but you're considering alternative, or maybe you're already doing alternative, but you're considering universal, or maybe you're ready to do both. We have funding to support that in specific states. So that deadline is fast. of May 1st for next school year. So funding will be available and provided to schools so purchases can be made over the summer and planning can take place during that time. You can find that on our website, and the link is provided there. We also have resources that can really be helpful through our webinar series. Many of you have come to us over the years and participated in our school breakfast webinars. We have information related to specific models. Here's just an example of some of our webinars over the last few years. You can find them on our archived webinar page. All you have to do is log in. If you're not already have a username, you just sign up and you can have access to all of our materials very easily. So I encourage you to check out some of our webinars where you can get more specific information related to maybe some of the questions you had during the webinar today or in general. In addition, I encourage you to check out our Tools for Schools page on our webinar or on our website. You can find some activities that will really help you maybe highlight your breakfast program a little bit more. Maybe you're a school that doesn't have a lot of free and reduced need, but maybe you are, you have students that eat breakfast, and you want to really make sure that you're providing more opportunities to become more aware of the breakfast program. There's information on taste tests that will help you promote your school breakfast program and to help increase participation. And so you can kind of navigate through it. It's kind of a cool infographic where it's a school building, and you can maybe find things for parents at their homepage or on their, with the building that looks like a house. There's information for classrooms, so you can maybe find activities for breakfast in the classroom. So a lot of information there on that page as well. You can also follow us through lots of social media outlets, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and find lots of different activities. We do promote around the different holidays, things for teachers, things for classrooms, things for parents. So I encourage you to follow us if you're not already to get more resources. But we do have partners that have a lot of resources available, and we wanted to highlight a few of them. One of the big key decision makers in school districts are the superintendent. AASA, the School Superintendents Association, one of our key partners, has put together a series of videos with various superintendents that they've worked with through their granting process, and also they've put together a best practices that they've promoted out to their leadership and their superintendents. But if you want to share that with your superintendent, or maybe you need that higher up support to make some of the changes happen, I encourage you to log in here and find some of that information. One of the things that we didn't get to spend a lot of time on was to talk about schools that don't really match the change to an alternative model. Perhaps they have low free and reduced numbers, or not high enough to really make universal a reality, or an alternative model a reality. Or maybe there's some logistical issues in the school. Maybe the principal's against it, or that there's some other situation in the school that doesn't allow for those things to happen. So marketing to parents can make a difference in involving parents and getting messaging out. Share Our Strengths is offering to 30 schools a pilot. It's a parent communication strategy, and it's available. It's a grant that's available for us before the school year is up. I believe the deadline is April 22nd. Fast approaching, even faster than our grant is approaching. But it's $1,000 in funding to implement some of the strategies that they have tested previously, that they're now testing in a bit wider market. And then you'll provide some feedback to them so that they can help to create some more best practices related to sharing messaging with parents and getting increase in participation that way. So we will be providing that link to you and more information in your follow-up materials so that you can have that opportunity to apply for that funding through them. In addition, FRAC, as mentioned by Annalise in the first section, has loads of information available on their website. I've highlighted a few here, and as she mentioned, different report that she was sharing about their Breakfast for Learning report, but the Breakfast Scorecard is really a great, useful tool. It has best practices, highlight why breakfast increases, and what are some areas that help to increase it. We've mentioned them today with alternative models, universal free breakfast, community eligibility, all being ways to help improve breakfast participation numbers. And then it breaks it down by state so that you're able to see if breakfast was increasing in certain states, you will be able to bring in more money into your state. And sometimes money talks. And to those decision makers at the top, the business managers, superintendents, money talks. They know that breakfast is important to learning. That's why a lot of principals support it during test-taking time, but it really is important throughout the year. And there's a plethora of handouts and other reports that you can find there as well. So I encourage you to delve into that and find some of the different things that might be helpful. Of course, our USDA has loads of information too. They have a Tools for Schools section. There's a toolkit for school breakfast. There's also sample menus and nutrition, education, and promotion, and the use of smarter lunchrooms, which is an integral part of their Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge certification, which we support and encourage schools to apply for. And so it's really about making breakfast appealing, making meals appealing, not just breakfast, but school lunch as well. How we serve the food, how we present it to the children in lower grades, even just talking about a carrot being a superhero carrot or x-ray carrots or something like that for your eyes is enough to increase children choosing to select that during their meal. So I encourage you to check out some of the USDA site. School Nutrition Association, as Annalise was mentioning, their Breakfast in the Classroom Toolkit focuses primarily on the elementary school level. SNA has focuses on middle schools and high schools, and then also around National School Breakfast Week, there's loads of free resources and ideas to help increase breakfast participation and breakfast awareness which is the first week of March every year. So, knowing what the theme is, there's a national theme. So being able to be aware of those things and link into something that's already established also removes that need to kind of recreate the wheel, so to speak. So I'm going to take a moment and just take a quick peek at some of the questions that come through. So one of the questions earlier had to do with breakfast in the classroom and how breakfast in the classroom is moved from the cafeteria to the classroom. And a lot of times schools are using insulated bags. They're rolling bags or some type of cart that will move them from one location to another. And as Karen was sharing in terms of keeping costs down, is you can utilize other resources or other things in your school to help make that happen. Sometimes students are moving those meals from one location to another using like 5th grade students rather than obviously kindergarten because they can be heavier and depending upon the logistics of the school, students can move those through. Sometimes it's those that might not have a morning class, a specialist, an assistant, custodians, nurses, those that could deliver them easily can do that too. So there's lots of ways to get around it because we know that our food service departments are really busy and they're either prepping prepping for lunch, preparing, and so then being able to find other avenues for delivery is really helpful. So then we have a question, is copies of the slide presentation also going to be available? Yes, it will. It will be coming to you along with a recording and links that were referenced today so that you have access to those links in an email format and not just in a slide deck. Is there a quick resource available that lists all upcoming deadlines for grant application? That's a good question. I'm not aware that any one organization has others on their site or that I can refer you to. We can note the ones that were mentioned today so that you have them in front of you. I do also know that there are other organizations that grant out. National Dairy Council through Fuel Up to Play 60 has grants, and they usually roll on a rolling basis, usually in the spring, in the fall, and maybe in the winter months they have a grant opportunity. And so different organizations, and definitely in different states. No Kid Hungry also has in certain states some funding available, as well as different hunger organizations in each state. So we'll do our best to be able to provide that information to you, but you might need to do some Google search too to see if there's anything that you might be missing. Most of the time, the grants do apply to the equipment that is needed, and ideally, if you are able to do that through one grant, that's great, but sometimes you might need to either pull some additional funds if your district isn't able to support your equipment need through the food service department, and that's usually quite doable. We all partner together. Those that grant out are in discussion with one another and figure out how ways that we can work together to support the school's needs. Okay, I'm just doing a quick scan to make sure I've got them all. Okay, I think we have all the questions pretty much answered that I can answer today. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate everybody hanging in. We did keep most of those that were in attendance still on the call. If you haven't and you're not as familiar with Action for Healthy Kids, I encourage you to take our Every Kid Healthy Pledge. We are working towards creating a 100,000 person movement in order to make all schools healthier places. So if you log in, real easy, it's a 2-second pledge that says that you believe in every kid should have the opportunity to be healthy and learn. I will be following up within the next 2 days with your information, but you can always contact me, and if you have questions for Karen or Annalise, we'll make sure that they are sent their way as well. Thanks for your time, and have a great day.